Okay, now that you have all of the tools necessary to do this assignment, let's go ahead and do it. So for this week, we're doing patterns and automation. We're going to have 9 individual 2-inch by 2-inch patterns and squares at 150 pixels per inch, and you're going to keep those. Don't turn those into me just as they are. What you're going to submit is an 11-layer 6-inch by 6-inch contact sheet out of the squares and the patterns. Keep that in mind. It's not just the squares that the contact sheet produces. You'll also need to create pattern adjustment layers so that I can take a look at it. This is also 150 pixels per inch. Let's go ahead and read through the assignment, and then we will do the prep work and do the assignment. So format to turn in: 1 PSD containing 11 layers, 1 layer with all of your squares, the 9 patterns as fills on 9 separate layers, and a single solid background layer. Be sure to keep your 9 original unflattened pattern files for future use. You may want to use them later. In fact, there's a couple of assignments where they could be very useful. So, hang on to them. This week, we're going to explore 2 often overlooked functions of Photoshop: the offset filter and automation, specifically the contact sheet 2. Begin by creating 9 2-inch pattern squares, each in its own separate file. Use filters, brushes, blending modes, stamp tools, healing brush, content-aware fills, pattern sets you've already made as fills, and selections to create interesting patterns. Use the offset filter under filter other offset to slide the pattern you're working on and connect open areas. Also, don't forget, if you're bringing images in, use the crop tool to get rid of any excess pixels. And again, all you have to do is, when you've created a new document that is the correct number of inches and resolution, and you were to say, just drop in, there are all those videos we just watched, just drop in a pattern of some sort, such as, I don't know, or an image like these berries. When you drop it in and you're getting ready to, do your thing, don't just leave it. You want to go ahead and crop it. And make sure that the crop has the delete cropped pixels. That way, when you come back and you offset, it won't be offsetting anything strange. There won't be anything around it. It will just be that, and that's all. Otherwise, you'll get stuck causing more and more work for yourself and not knowing why it won't work. So don't forget that. All right. Slide the pattern around, connect any open areas. This can be done with brushes, selection, stamp tools, healing brush, the patch tool, content-aware fills. Select an area, then use edit fill, contents, content-aware fill. Try to avoid banding by adding random or semi-random areas of interest. In other words, if a pattern were to start up, where's my mouse? If a pattern were to start up coming in like this, you'd kind of notice the weird pattern coming in between it. Or if there were strange gaps, you'd notice the negative space, like this white here and here and here. You'd start to notice that, and it would look like its own pattern. You'd have banding. Also avoid the patterns lining up, especially if you're using little images that you've pasted in. You don't want that to happen. Okay. When you're happy with the pattern, save it to its own file so you can create a contact sheet later. After you've saved it, make sure to store it in Photoshop as a pattern. To store your pattern, select the topmost visible layer, and if I remember correctly, it cannot be an adjustment layer. So if that's the case, just click the adjustment layer and use the old Control-Shift-Alt-E to get a flattened copy at the top, and you'll be good to go on that. And let's see, to store your layer, here we are. Select the topmost visible layer and use the stamp visible layer shortcut, Control-Shift-Alt-E on a PC, Command-Shift-Option-E on a Mac, to create a flattened duplicated layer on your layer stack. Now, these are instructions that will work in any version of Photoshop. Select the layer with Control-A, or edit, or select all, then go to edit define pattern. If you do that, any version of Photoshop will create the pattern. You don't have to worry about anything there. Name your pattern something appropriate and press OK. Your pattern will now be stored in Photoshop until the preferences are cleared out. And so, you might want to save those patterns out too. Create a total of 9 individual patterns. You may use previous patterns as a starting point, as long as the end result is clearly different from the original pattern. Once you're happy with your patterns, close them in Photoshop, go to wherever you saved them, and move a copy of your 9 favorite patterns, favorite individual pattern files, into a folder you can easily locate. Go back to Photoshop and use File, Automate Contact Sheet 2 to create a 6" by 6" 300 pixels per inch sheet containing all of your textures. And this will be under source image, use, folder, locate. And so this is instructions specifically on how to make that. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Merge all of your pattern squares onto one layer, but do not merge the pattern square on the background. Name your top layer contact sheet and the bottom layer background. Remember, this is a great way to present your work, but a terrible way to store your work since the contact sheet may resize your image. So be sure to keep a copy of each individual pattern square in case you need to edit them in the future. I doubt you need to edit them for my class unless you plan on using it for a future assignment, in which case you probably will. So I'd hang on to it. Just toss it on a flash drive if nothing else. Once the sheet is created, make a new layer between the contact sheet layer and the background layer. Select this new layer and then click the Create New Fill or Layer Mask icon. Create New Fill or Adjustment Layer icon on the layer palette. Don't know why I said that wrong. It's the black-white circle next to the Add a Layer Mask icon. Choose the pattern option. It's the third from the top, and fill it with one of your patterns. Don't use any Photoshop patterns, just use your own. Click the preview icon on the left to choose your pattern. Rename your layer to match your pattern name. So don't just leave it layer 1 through 9. Turn off the layer's visibility because I don't want them all over themselves, and then do this for 9 patterns. When you're done, you should save your 11 layer Photoshop document. Don't flatten this or I won't be able to grade it as a Photoshop document file. Name it using your the assignment number, last name, first name, iteration, convention. Turn it into turn it in online to Canvas, and you're done. Wow, this is a big one. Again, it takes a really long time to do the pattern, so gotta get it going there. So how do we prep for this? Well, let's just do it. We will close that up. As you can see, I've got the wrong folder open. I'm just going to go over to the week 6 demo. I've got 9 patterns, and in here I have 9 patterns and an empty folder for some reason. I will just delete that. So we've got 9 patterns to use. So let's do it. I'll drag these. And it looks like I have one of them maybe the wrong size. Let me check the Lime when we get to it. So this, I know everything's good here. So I said Control-Alt-Shift-E, Control-A, Edit, Define Pattern. We'll call this Vine Pattern. All right, let's do this. Pattern 1, Vine. All right. Don't need to save it because I've already got it saved. Control-Alt-Shift-E, Control-A, Edit, Define Pattern. And we'll call this Pattern 2, Stone Wall. Okay, close that. No need to save it. Got the stars. Control-Alt-Shift-E. I missed. Control-Alt-Shift-E. It's not doing it. What? Control-A, am I on this layer? I am. Control-Alt-Shift-E. Wow, it really does not want to do that. I'm hitting the wrong key. Control-Alt-Shift-E. Nope, absolute mystery. Why is it not working? Like duplicate and delete. Control-Alt-Shift-E. Oh, because there are no other layers. It can't... So it can't do that command because there are no active layers below it. If I made another layer and then I did Control-Alt-Shift-E, boom, I'd get a combination. But as it is with the visible layer off, nothing happens. All right, deselect. Control-A to select. And then edit, define pattern. And we'll call this pattern. What was I up to? We had the stone wall, the flowers, 3 stars. And we'll find out from there. Close without saving. Now we get these guys. There's only one layer on this one, so I'm not going to do the Control-Alt-Shift-E. I'm just going to do Control-A, edit, define pattern, Pattern 4, maybe? I totally lost track. Pumpkins. Close that. We've got gravel. Control-Alt-Shift-E. Control-A. Edit, define pattern. Was this pebbles? Pebbles, I think. Oh. Pebble. Okay. Close it without saving. I think the limes might be the wrong size. Check. Yeah, that is the wrong size. 150. Okay, Control A, edit, define pattern. Pattern 6, limes. Close that without saving. This would be gravel. Control-Alt-Shift-E, Control-A, edit, define pattern. Pattern 7, gravel. Close without saving. Just one layer here, so no worries. Edit, define pattern. Pattern 8, circles and lines. Oh, we got this bad boy. Was this the one we settled on? There were a lot of different versions of this. I think it was this one. We'll do edit, define pattern, pattern 9. Okay. Close without saving. Oh, that was a mistake. Let me reopen that last one. File, open recent, and grab all the way down pattern 9 because this is going to be used again in the contact sheet, so I absolutely need to make sure that the correct thing is up front. So I will save, and I need to do the same for the limes because that was the other one that I adjusted, and that was image size. You do want to save these if you do changes. That way the contact sheet will build it correctly. Okay, there we go. So now we have everything ready to go, and I'm going to go ahead and call this the prep video, and then we will actually do the rest of it. Okay, see you next video.